Ma'am, step back. That window is not a place for you to be standing. She didn't move. She stood at the clerk's window of the Millbrook County Traffic Court, exactly as she had every right to stand, citation in hand, typed appeal letter folded neatly inside an envelope, reading glasses pushed up to the top of her natural hair. She had been waiting 11 minutes. She had timed it. "I'm here to submit an appeal on a parking citation," she said. Her voice was quiet and even. "Citation number ML2247. I have the paperwork." Officer Gary Pruitt stepped between her and the window. He was off duty, working a courthouse security detail, and he had the particular confidence of a man who had never once been corrected. He wore his badge on his belt even when he wasn't in uniform, like a piece of jewelry he couldn't take off. "The window's closed for walk-ins. You need an appointment." She looked past him at the clerk, a woman in her 40s who was watching with her eyes on her keyboard. The sign on the wall said nothing about appointments. She had been at this window before. She knew exactly what it said. "The posted hours say walk-in appeals are accepted until 4:30, she said. "It is 3:51. Pruitt reached across. She saw it happening and did not step back, and took the envelope from her hand. Not firmly. Sharply, the way you take something from someone you've decided doesn't own it. "Let me see what you've got here." He didn't look at it. He didn't open it. He glanced at the front of the envelope, where she had written the citation number and her return address, and then, in a motion that was slow enough to be deliberate, he tore it in half. Then again. Then a third time. He set the pieces on the counter between them. "Come back with an appointment," he said. "Or don't." A phone rose from the row of plastic chairs behind her. A teenage girl, gum in her mouth, filmed it with a low laugh. They never stopped trying, do they? And kept scrolling with her other thumb. Beside her, a man in a gray blazer glanced up, nodded slightly at Pruitt, and looked back at his phone. Near the door, an older woman in a church hat saw the whole thing, tucked her purse to her side, and walked out faster than she'd walked in. The clerk at the window had not looked up. She stood there. She looked at the torn pieces on the counter. She did not touch them. She did not raise her voice. She counted, silently, the way she had been counting since she was 8 years old. 1 violation, 2 violations, 3. A man. A badge. A document destroyed. A rule cited that did not exist. She had no idea that Gary Pruitt had just made the single worst decision of a 22-year career. And in 48 hours, every camera in that building would be subpoenaed. Every personnel file. Every dismissed complaint. And Gary Pruitt would be explaining himself, not to his captain, not to a union rep, but to a federal investigator who reported to the woman he had just dismissed. But this story doesn't start here. Rewind 11 days. The Honorable Constance Adeze Morrow Bell was seated in her chambers on the 6th floor of the Millbrook State Courthouse, the same building, 6 floors up, when the parking citation appeared in her assistant's email. $437, a street cleaning violation from a Tuesday in October, when she had been at the hospital sitting beside her mother's bed and had not thought once about where her car was parked. She was 56 years old. She had served on the Millbrook State Supreme Court for 9 years. She had been Chief Justice for 3. Before that, she had spent 11 years as a circuit court judge, 6 years as a public defender, and 4 years before that trying cases in the state attorney's office with a briefcase held together by 2 rubber bands and ambition that her supervisors described as, quote, unnerving. She had been the first black woman appointed to the state Supreme Court. She was the first black woman to serve as its Chief Justice. There were photographs in the hallways of this building. Her name was on 2 of its conference rooms. On her desk, between her water glass and a stack of cert petitions, sat a framed photograph she had carried through every office she'd ever had. Her parents, 1987. Her mother in a blue dress, laughing at something off camera. Her father in the brown suit he wore to every important occasion. The same suit, every time, because he had one suit, and he wore it with everything he had. He had driven a school bus for 31 years. He died 3 months before she took her first judicial oath. He never saw any of it. She looked at the citation notice for exactly as long as it took her to decide not to have her assistant handle it. She would appeal it herself. She would walk it down to the clerk's window and submit it the way anyone would. She was not above the process. The process was the thing she had spent 30 years defending. She typed the letter herself that evening. Attached the hospital visitor log, signed it with her title, because the form required it. She did not imagine for one moment that her title would need to protect her. Gary Pruitt had been with the Millbrook County Sheriff's Office for 22 years. In those 22 years, he had received 4 commendations, 2 Officer of the Year plaques, and a framed letter from the mayor after a hostage incident in 2009 that local news had covered for a week. His photograph had been on the department's recruiting poster until 2019, when someone quietly updated it. In those same 22 years, there had been 14 formal complaints filed against him. 11 had been dismissed. 2 had been settled without admission of fault. 1 was still technically open, assigned to an investigator who had been on medical leave for 7 months. The complaints had a common vocabulary: unnecessary force, dismissive conduct, racially targeted enforcement. 14 times, someone had written it down. 14 times the system had read it and decided there was nothing to see. His captain was a man named Dennis Caulfield, who had worked with Pruitt for 16 of those years, and who described him, in writing, as one of the finest officers I have had the privilege to serve alongside. Caulfield's nephew ran internal affairs. Pruitt had been assigned to the courthouse security detail 2 years earlier after a use of force incident that required him to be moved out of patrol. It was presented as a lateral reassignment. It was a place to put him. At the window, after Pruitt walked away, Constance Morrow Bell picked up the torn pieces of her envelope. She did not throw them away. She placed them carefully in her bag. She walked to the security desk near the entrance and asked for the supervisor on duty. The supervisor was a young deputy named Ferris. He was 28. He had been on the job for 3 years, and he had the look of a man who was already tired of the particular math his job required. "I'd like to report what just happened at Window 3, she said. She described it calmly. The torn document. The fabricated appointment policy. The time. Deputy Ferris listened. He typed something into his system. He looked at her and said, "I'll log it and have a supervisor follow up. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" She looked at him for a moment. He knew something was wrong. She could see it in the way he was holding himself, very still, slightly forward, the posture of a person waiting for permission to act. "I need the name of the officer," she said. "Full name." "I can't release that information at the window," Ferris said. Then, quieter, "But his badge number is 847. She wrote it down. She thanked him. She walked out. Outside, she sat in her car, a 6-year-old silver Accord with a parking permit for the court employee lot and a child's drawing stuck to the dashboard with a piece of dried tape. And she made a phone call. Her husband, James Morrow Bell, answered on the second ring. He was a retired federal prosecutor. He had spent 23 years in the U.S. Attorney's Office before his retirement 2 years ago. He now consulted, occasionally, for the Department of Justice. He was, at the moment she called, making dinner. She told him what happened. The whole thing. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, there was a brief silence. "Are the pieces of the envelope still in your bag?" "Yes, good. Don't touch them with your bare hands anymore. And send me the citation number." He set down the spatula. He went to his office. He opened his laptop. 26 hours left. The next morning, Constance Morrow Bell arrived at her chambers at 7:42. She set her bag on the chair across from her desk, not on the desk itself. She sat down. She reviewed the petition she had been drafting before the previous day's interruption. At 9:15, her phone rang. It was Gerald Akabe, the chief investigator for the State Judicial Oversight Commission. Gerald was 61 years old, had been in his position for 12 years, and had the particular kind of quiet patience that comes from spending a decade watching powerful people make avoidable mistakes. He and Constance had known each other for 14 years. "I heard," he said. "From who?" "James called me last night. He also called DOJ. And he called, a pause, a few others. Gerald, it's done, Connie. I just need you to know what's moving. The courthouse camera footage from yesterday has been formally preserved. I've got a copy of the original citation, the appeal letter, and the envelope pieces. I've got Pruitt's full personnel file, which I've been requesting for 2 years, and which just materialized in my inbox this morning, because someone at the county clerk's office has apparently been waiting for exactly this reason to release it." She was quiet for a moment. "I didn't ask you to do any of that," she said. "No," Gerald said. "You didn't have to. I've been waiting 3 years for a case Caulfield couldn't kill. I have 14 complaints, Connie, 14, and a captain who personally signed off on 11 dismissals. The minute someone with standing calls it in, the whole thing opens up." She looked at the photograph on her desk. Her father's brown suit. Her mother's laugh. "How long?" she asked. "Federal involvement?" "Probably 12 hours. It's already a civil rights matter. James made sure of that." She nodded, though he couldn't see it. "I need you to do something for me, Gerald. Name it." "Make sure the record shows I filed the appeal," she said. "The full appeal. I want it on file that I went through the proper process. I want every step documented." "Already done," he said. "I filed it this morning on your behalf, through the formal channel. Citation number ML 2247. Appeal accepted. 22 hours left." At noon, Gary Pruitt was on break in the courthouse employee lounge eating a sandwich and watching football highlights on his phone. His colleague, Officer Pamela Vance, was sitting across from him. Vance had been watching the morning the way you watch something you know is already over. She had been in the building when it happened. She had seen it. She had not said anything. She had walked to the water fountain and kept walking, the way she had done before. The way she had been taught to do by a department that rewarded loyalty over accuracy. Now, watching Pruitt laugh at something on his phone, she felt the specific unease of a person beginning to understand the cost of their own silence. She thought about what she'd seen. The torn envelope, the woman who had not flinched. There had been something in that woman's stillness that had unsettled her all morning. Not anger. Not fear, just a calm so complete it was almost like watching someone take notes. "Pruitt," she said. "What? Who was she?" "The woman at window 3. He shrugged. No idea why. Vance said nothing. She looked at her coffee. "Vance, why?" She stood up. "Just make sure your report is airtight," she said. And she walked out. Pruitt watched her go. Then he went back to his phone. He typed a brief incident report on the departmental app, Unauthorized individual attempted to access window during non-walk-in hours, redirected appropriately, and submitted it in 40 seconds. He felt, in the particular way of a man who has never been wrong, entirely correct. 20 minutes later, he posted a photograph on his personal social media account, not of anything related to that morning. A fishing photo from the weekend. A largemouth bass on a hook. 47 likes by evening. He had no idea that his career was now measured in hours. 18 hours left. At 2:30 in the afternoon, a federal civil rights investigator named Diane Okonkwo arrived at the Millbrook County Sheriff's administrative offices and requested a meeting with Captain Dennis Caulfield. Caulfield was not available. Diane Okonkwo waited in the lobby for 4 minutes. Then she placed a call. Then she walked back to the desk and said, calmly, that she would need access to the personnel files for badge number 847, all associated complaint records, and any internal affairs documentation from the last 5 years, and that she had a federal preservation order that would require the building's surveillance footage to be held in its current state pending federal review. The sergeant at the desk went to find Caulfield. Caulfield came out. He was a heavy man with the kind of tan that comes from outdoor sporting rather than outdoor work, and he looked at Diane Okonkwo with the particular expression of a man who was accustomed to ending conversations before they started. "What's this about?" he said. "Badge 847, she said. His expression didn't change immediately. That was the thing about men like Caulfield. The response came a beat late, like a reflex that had been trained out of him. But it came. "I'll need to see your credentials," he said. She showed him. He looked at them for longer than necessary. She waited. "I'll get those files," he said. He returned 30 minutes later with 3 folders. Diane Okonkwo opened the first one, scanned the first page, and set it down. Then she looked at Caulfield. "I count 11 dismissal signatures here," she said. "All yours." "Standard procedure," Caulfield said. "Each one reviewed and reviewed by your nephew," she said. He stopped. The room went quiet in the way rooms go quiet when the last pretense leaves it. "The Federal Preservation Order extends to your own personnel records as well," she said. "You'll want to let your attorney know." He was not, at that moment, thinking about the fish he was going to catch on Saturday. He was not thinking about anything except the 11 signatures. 12 hours left. Constance Morrow Bell walked into the Millbrook County Sheriff's press briefing room at 10:15 the following morning. She wore a deep burgundy blazer and small gold earrings. Her reading glasses were in her left breast pocket. Her hands were folded in front of her. 12 reporters. 3 cameras. A podium. She did not use notes. "My name is Constance Adeze Morrow Bell," she said. "I am the Chief Justice of the Millbrook State Supreme Court. Yesterday afternoon, I went to the county courthouse to file a parking citation appeal. An officer on courthouse security detail took my appeal documents from my hand and destroyed them. I am sharing this publicly, not to seek sympathy. I am sharing it because I have the resources, the standing, and the institutional knowledge to ensure this reaches a public record. Most people who experience what I experienced yesterday do not." She paused. "I want to be clear about something. I did not announce my title when Officer Pruitt took those documents. I did not announce it when he tore them apart. I did not announce it when I walked out, because here is the thing that matters. I should not have had to. If the only way to be treated with basic dignity in a public institution is to announce your credentials, then the institution has already failed. I am not interested in the protection my title affords me. I am interested in the protection the law is supposed to afford every single person in that building, She looked directly at the cameras. Badge 847, she said. 14 complaints, 11 dismissed. A system that protected him not because he was innocent, but because it was easier than accountability. That system ends today. She straightened her jacket. To the officer at the security desk who gave me his badge number when he didn't have to, I saw you. I know what that cost. Thank you. To the complicit, you know who you are. She stepped back from the podium. She did not smile. She was not performing. She was tired in the way that people who have been doing this for 30 years are tired, deeply, structurally, with full knowledge of how much is still left to do. She walked out the side door. Her husband was waiting in the car. He handed her coffee without a word. She took it. Their hands touched for a moment on the cup. She changed her court date to next week, he said. Your mother, she's already at home. Constance nodded, looked out the window. It'll happen again, she said. Not today, not this week, but it'll happen again to someone. Yes, James said. That's why you keep the tape, she said. He pulled out of the lot. The news trucks were still pulling in behind them. Gary Pruitt's badge was removed 6 days later during an administrative hearing attended by 4 people. Pruitt, his union representative, an internal affairs officer who was not Caulfield's nephew, and Diane Okonkwo from the federal office. The hearing lasted 40 minutes. He was placed on immediate suspension pending criminal investigation. Federal charges under 18 U.S.C. 242, deprivation of rights under color of law, were filed 11 days after the incident. He was subsequently charged at the county level with destruction of legal documents and civil rights violations. He accepted a plea. He was sentenced to 14 months and permanently barred from law enforcement. He cleaned out his desk on a Tuesday. No ceremony. No farewell. 2 cardboard boxes, and a drive home through a town that had, by then, learned his name in a way he had never wanted it learned. Captain Dennis Caulfield resigned before the federal investigation concluded. The 11 dismissed complaints were reopened under federal review. His pension was frozen. He is currently the subject of a separate civil rights inquiry. Pamela Vance requested a transfer to the city's Community Oversight Liaison Unit. She completed 30 hours of civil rights training. She submitted a written account of what she saw that day at Window 3. She filed it, she said, because she wanted it on the record that she had finally said something. The account is public. Her name is on it. Deputy Ferris, the young man who gave Constance the badge number, was promoted to sergeant 8 months later. The commendation in his file cites professional judgment and integrity under pressure. The teenage girl who filmed it, laughing, posted the video that night. It reached 1.8 million views before she took it down. She left it up long enough. The comment section found its own language for what had been captured. She was 17. She has not said publicly whether she regrets the laugh. Some things take longer than 14 months. The woman in the church hat who walked out, she wrote a letter. Anonymous, mailed to the County Oversight Commission. It said only, I saw it. I should have stayed. I know that now. Constance Morrow Bell returned to Chambers the week after the press conference. She reviewed the pending cert petitions. She drafted 2 opinions. She accepted an invitation to speak at a civil rights symposium in the spring. On her desk, the photograph had not moved. Her father, the brown suit. Her mother's laugh. She still sometimes counts, silently, in rooms where she should not have to count. That has not changed. She does not expect it to. Gerald Achebe was promoted to Deputy Director of the State Oversight Commission the following spring. At his swearing-in, he said the following: "Justice doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. It accumulates in filed records and preserved footage and badge numbers written on the backs of hands. It accumulates in the people who stay when it would be easier to leave. And one day, when the system has accumulated enough of it, it has no choice but to act. He looked out at the audience. Constance was in the third row. She was already watching the next case. She had been watching it for weeks. Someone has to be. If this story stayed with you, if it made you feel something, name it. In the comments, tell me, have you ever been in that building? Have you ever stood at that window? Have you ever watched and not said anything and carried that with you afterward? Because Constance Morrow Bell's story is in the record now. But there are 1,000 stories just like it that never reached a camera, never reached a federal investigator, never reached a podium. They reached a torn envelope, a dismissed complaint, a woman who walked out alone. The only way those stories change is if we are all watching. Subscribe if you believe that accountability needs witnesses. Share if you know someone who needs to hear that their experience was real, it was documented, and it mattered. Every view is a record. Every share is a file. Keep watching.